Ahoy there. We're going to be doing something a little bit different today. I'm going to attempt to restore this inclinometer. Now, this inclinometer, if you look down here, is actually, that's in Japanese. This is from a Toyota Sprinter Carib, and it presumably sat out in the elements for a majority of its life because it's in pretty rough shape. So, I'm going to take it apart, see if I can align this stuff up, clean everything up, and see how good I can get this thing to actually look. I don't know if I'm going to ever be able to make it look brand new, but if I can make it look a lot better, I'll be real happy. Now, this is going to go inside my 87 DLX, which if you're new here to the channel, I tend to toy around with 80s Toyota wagons pretty regularly, and I just recently picked up an 87 car. That's going to be my off-road car. This video will be attached to that playlist of that car if you'd like to check it out, and there'll be lots more coming soon on that thing in the future. Oh, fuck, I did break it. Alright, now we got her off. Does look like we did break the little tab over here. A little bit of a bummer, but I think we'll go ahead and be able to glue it back in place. Alright, so for starters, I'm actually not going to take this apart just yet. We're going to start off by trying to clean up the hood, or the lid. I don't know what you want to call it. This thing is really rough. So, I'm going to start off by just giving it a bit of spray with some spray away glass cleaner. This stuff works pretty good for cleaning. I'm just going to give it a quick soak. See if this might bring in some life back into the plastic or not. And I'm going to take a magic eraser, kind of scrub away at this. Let's just see what kind of crud we can get off of here. Ooh, yuck. All right, that looks a little bit better. Next I'm going to use up, this is some Totally Awesome cleaner. This stuff you get like Dollar General. I'm just going to kind of spray this along the top of here. Basically do the same thing I was doing with the magic eraser. Kind of scrubbing it off. Seeing if I can't clean off any deep, gross junk. It does look a little bit cleaner, but it's very, very dry. I'm guessing this thing baked in the sun for the last 30 of the last 40 plus years it's been in existence. Now I guess let's hop over to this thing right here. So I'm going to pull the screws out of here. These were available in the United States on the Toyota four-wheel drive Tercel wagons. The SR5s only came with them, and they were only in the US for 83 and 84 model years. German, Japan, and other markets, I believe they were sold along the entire life of the vehicle, but I know for sure in the United States it was only 83 and 84, which is a bit of a bummer because I think these were really cool, but I recall coming across people that had worked at shops back in the day, and a lot of people complained about them. They said they didn't like them or they wanted without it because the cars were very, very expensive when they were new. They were something in the neighborhood of like $11,000, and there was dealership markups because they were hard to get. I think people may have wanted to opt out of them to save money potentially while still having the highest trim available. I'm unsure. I was not alive when these were brand new, but based on some of the research, that's what I found out. Okay, and off comes this lid. And now the good news is behind this, it's actually in very good shape. So in order to center this thing, it's actually very easy. There are some counterweights behind this right here, and that is all this does to move. So this little weight on the side here gets knocked out, and you got to kind of straighten it out a little bit. I'm just going to pull this bracket off because this needs to get sandblasted and painted anyway. And also, if you have one of these inclinometers or a Tercel wagon and you are interested in installing one after you source one on eBay or whatnot, I have a video on my channel of me installing one of these in one of my cars. I will link that in the description, and you guys can check that out if you would like. They're pretty easy to wire in. The 83 and 84 model years are the only years that had the harness for these. Both the DLX and the SR5s ran the same wiring harness, so they were a quick plug and play swap. You just had to kind of drill a couple of holes in your dashboard and it would mount in place. But if you have an 85 and newer model year, you do not have the wiring harness. And so that requires a little bit more work, which that's what I ended up doing in my car. So I had to splice into a couple of different spots. And I show how to do all that in that video. All right, off comes the bracket. And now behind this, a couple of screws hold this thing all together. We'll twist this out of there. And out this comes. So let me unlock this thing. So in order to get these things to tilt, there are counterweights. You see that right there? As this tips around, these counterweights adjust it, and that's what sets all the different measurements on there. There's a counterweight right there for the left one, and a counterweight right here for the right one. Now, when these things get shipped, they very often get knocked out of place like this. So the easiest thing you can kind of do is hold this in place, very gently straighten out the top of that right there. Looks like I overshot it right there, so I'm going to hold this gear a little bit again, just kind of try to prevent it from rotating. I'm going to do that and try to straighten it out. So we need a little bit more left to go. That looks pretty level to me. Let's unlock it. It seems to be adjusting accordingly, left to right. We're good to go. Locking it back up, looks pretty straight to me. Let's go ahead and put this back in here. Thankfully, none of this is damaged. I actually kind of anticipated some of this to have some water damage, seeing as the lens is in very, very, very poor shape. And next, we're going to focus on this lens. So this thing is very scratched up. I'm going to start off by doing the same I did with the last part. Just going to kind of spray it. Some glass cleaner. Let that kind of soak up in there. If you take a little bit of this, very fine scrub. See if I can't scrub away some of the dirt and debris. I think I'm going to be able to get that yellowing out of there. I think that's going to exist for life. But if we can at least make it a little bit more presentable, I'll be pretty happy. This is a 40-year-old piece of plastic, so I'm trying to be fairly gentle with it, even though it may not look like it. But I think that looks like all we're going to get out of there until we start going crazy and start doing some buffing. So, all right, we got a fresh piece of cardboard. I'm going to lay that down. I'm going to use some of these polishing pads. These are just cheap Amazon specials. I don't know if there's anything great about them, but they were very inexpensive, which is what I'm looking for. All right, orange is allegedly the most coarse, and it progressively gets better to blue and white, which there's actually not a blue in this stack. Blue's in the other stack. I'm going to start off with a yellow one. We'll try this on out for size. Just goes on this little drill pad right here. Now, in order to actually polish this stuff, I'm going to use Meguiar's Ultimate Compound. This may not be the best product for this. I am no detailing guy. Feel free to critique me in the comments. I'm just trying to save this dirty old Toyota Inclinometer from Japan. Take the drill pad right here. Put a little bit on this. Oh, it's probably a lot more than I really need. That's good. Whatever. We'll kind of just dab it on here a little bit. Okay, first pass, let's see how it looks. Well, looking at it in the light, there's definitely some very deep gouges in it. I don't know how well the camera's going to pick them up, but there's some really deep ones right over here. A lot of small ones along here, and then there's a really deep one that runs across the four-wheel drive area. I don't think we're going to get them out because those are, like, they're catching with my nail. Well, I hate to say it, but I think that's about as good as it's actually going to get. There is some ink flaking off in the backside right here, and beyond me somehow getting this completely recreated, I don't think it's going to look any better than that. So either way, that definitely looks a ton nicer than it did. So let's throw this back on the inclinometer, and then we'll go back and get the cover sanded, filled, and painted to perfection. So back over here on the lid, as you can see, there are tons and tons of cracks all over the place, scattered throughout this entire thing. So I'm going to start off by trying to kind of sand some of these cracks down and get ready to fill them with some glue. Hopefully I can kind of form them out and make them at least fairly durable. And then I'm going to paint this thing, and hopefully that'll bring it back and give it some life. So I'm just going to start off with some sandpaper right here. Go ahead and fill the cracks in this plastic right here with some JB Weld plastic bonder. I'm going to go ahead and use the end of a can to mix this stuff up. It was a little bit stronger in the All right, we'll let this thing cure and come back in a half hour. It's probably a little bit higher raised than it needs to be, but I can always sand down. Can't exactly sand up. So let's see how this goes. All right, here we are about a half hour later. Everything feels pretty dry. Well, after 438 months of sanding, this is kind of the results I have right now. All these are filled in. They're pretty flush. There's a little bit of a raised spot right here and right here. Along here, I definitely added way too much, and I'm starting to sand through it. So I'm just going to go ahead. This is going to be kind of in the back anyway. This is the part you're going to be mostly looking at. So I'm going to go ahead and just ignore the imperfections back there. It is filled, so any cracks shouldn't expand anymore. So I say we'll give this one quick clean, and then we'll run out and give this thing a coat of paint. Hopefully it comes out all right. So the bracket, I'm going to have to get sandblasted. I don't own a sandblaster, so I'm going to have to source this with somebody else or eventually just buy one for myself. But here she is. So there's the cover. I did paint the screws a little bit. It's not perfect. There is a little bit of fading. You can kind of see inside of here. I thought about trying to polish the back sides of this, but I don't know if I'm really going to be able to do this without damaging this outer black layer of paint right there. So I'm not just not going to risk it, unfortunately. This plastic is pretty beat up. If you got any tips and tricks on how to kind of salvage this and make this look a little bit nicer, I'm all ears. I was thinking about getting some like 3,000, 5,000 grit sandpaper and kind of wet sanding it. But overall, I don't know if I'm going to be able to recover some of these very deep gouges that are inside of this. And last but not least, here's the cover. I definitely needed to do a little bit more work over there. And the bottom, I kind of screwed up a little bit. But from a distance and on top of a dashboard, it's going to look really nice. This is far better than what it looked like before. So I'm pretty happy with the results. Again, it's not perfect. I'm no restoration guy. But if you got any tips, any feedback, any tricks, any things I could do to improve this and do a better job next time, I'm all ears. Please leave a note in the word spot. This is my first time ever doing anything like this, and I just wanted to kind of salvage this thing. So we'll go ahead. We'll put it in the 87 DLX sometime soon. So subscribe, hit like, check out that video when it comes out. Thanks a ton for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.